Ford's strategic pivot to Canada for electric vehicle production has stirred political tensions and economic concerns in the U.S. How will this cross-border shift reshape the American automotive landscape? Ford Motor Company has announced a significant investment of over $1.8 billion to transform its Oakville assembly plant in Ontario into a hub for electric vehicle, or EV, production. This move includes plans to build vehicles and assemble battery packs on site, marking a strategic shift in Ford's manufacturing operations. This transition has led to concerns in U.S. industrial regions. In Michigan, Ford temporarily laid off 600 non-striking workers at its Wayne assembly plant, citing adjustments in production schedules. Additionally, Cleveland-Cliffs, a major steel supplier, announced layoffs of over 1,200 workers in Michigan and Minnesota, attributing the decision to decreased automotive demand influenced by shifting manufacturing strategies. In response to Ford's investment in Canada, President Donald Trump has threatened to impose a 25% tariff on all Canadian imports, excluding energy products, which would be subjected to a 10% tariff. The administration aims to reduce the U.S. trade deficit and encourage stronger Canadian border enforcement. Such tariffs could lead to increased prices for vehicles imported from Canada, affecting American consumers. The automotive industry warns that these measures may disrupt the integrated North American supply chain, potentially leading to higher costs and reduced availability of certain vehicle models in the U.S. market. Canada has proactively positioned itself as an attractive destination for EV manufacturing through clear policies and substantial incentives. The federal IZEV program offers rebates of up to $5,000 for eligible zero-emission vehicles, while provinces like Quebec provide additional incentives, with some drivers earning up to $13,000 per electric vehicle. These incentives have attracted significant investments from automakers, including Ford's $1.2 billion manufacturing plant for EV battery material in Quebec. The U.S. automotive industry faces increased competition as manufacturers consider relocating operations to benefit from Canada's favorable policies, potentially leading to further job losses and reduced investment in American manufacturing facilities. The shift in manufacturing has led to disruptions in the U.S. automotive retail sector. Ford dealerships are experiencing inventory shortages, leading to reduced sales, and in some cases, closures. For instance, TriStar Ford in Pennsylvania announced its closure after 10 years, citing challenges related to inventory and federal EV mandates. The closure of dealerships and layoffs in manufacturing have broader implications for American communities. Local economies suffer as jobs are lost and consumer confidence declines. The automotive industry's restructuring underscores the need for strategic policies to support domestic manufacturing and mitigate adverse effects on workers and communities. 6 major U.S. companies are scaling back domestic operations amid rising tariffs, signaling a shift in the nation's industrial landscape. How will these changes affect American workers and consumers? General Motors anticipates a $4 to $5 billion revenue hit due to tariffs, prompting operational shifts. Ford projects a $1.5 billion impact, leading to cost-cutting measures. Harley-Davidson has withdrawn its financial forecast, citing tariff uncertainties. Caterpillar expects up to $350 million in additional costs this quarter from tariffs, affecting its construction and resource industries segments. This slow but steady industrial retreat is not just a boardroom issue. It's reshaping the job market. Thousands of blue-collar jobs in Detroit, Pittsburgh, and smaller factory towns are under threat. Facility closures and reduced shifts could hit unionized labor the hardest. In areas already vulnerable to job loss, communities face a double burden: fewer opportunities and higher living costs. As companies reduce their domestic footprints, America's industrial backbone grows thinner, less resilient to shocks. and more reliant on foreign output. Walmart's CFO has publicly warned that U.S. tariffs are beginning to bite into profit margins, forcing strategic shifts in pricing. To stay afloat, Walmart canceled hundreds of overseas product orders and is scaling back inventory across thousands of locations. Nike, facing manufacturing costs up by $6 to $10 per shoe, has already adjusted prices for nearly 40% of its top-selling products, affecting lines popular among students, athletes, and working-class shoppers. Experts forecast apparel inflation will rise by an additional 4% by year-end if tariffs persist. The shift hits everyday Americans directly. Shoes once priced at $60 now cost up to $80. Back to school, shopping season could become a financial squeeze for millions of households. Essential items, clothing, shoes, basic electronics are no longer priced for affordability. Middle-class families are adjusting by buying less, postponing non-essentials, or switching to lower-quality alternatives. While corporate leaders cite necessity, American families feel the squeeze at checkout. For many, the economic pain is no longer theoretical. It's sitting right there in the shopping cart. Caterpillar has long been a pillar of American industry. But with tariff-related costs ballooning by up to $350 million this quarter alone, its leadership is warning of potential operational relocations. The company is considering moving segments of its heavy equipment manufacturing to Mexico or Canada, regions with more stable trade conditions, and access to untaxed components, with tariffs adding pressure across steel, aluminum, and electronics. Similar manufacturers are quietly mapping exits from the U.S. industrial belt. The concern isn't just corporate profitability. It's whether the U.S. can remain competitive in global industry. For workers in Peoria, Illinois, and beyond, this is a wake-up call. The threat of losing high-paying, skilled labor positions to cheaper foreign markets is more than political rhetoric. It's becoming economic reality. Layoffs may not be mass-scale yet, but the uncertainty is paralyzing. Training programs stall, investment dries up, and younger workers are discouraged from entering trade industries. As industrial might shifts offshore, the socio-economic fabric of entire regions could unravel. What once was a path to middle-class stability now feels more like a dead end. Airbus has overtaken Boeing in global aircraft production, reshaping the aviation industry in 2025. But how will these shifts impact American jobs in air travel? Airbus has officially surpassed Boeing to become the world's leading commercial aircraft manufacturer, now commanding approximately 56% of the global market, compared to Boeing's 40%. At the core of this success is the A320neo family, particularly the A321neo, which has become the best-selling aircraft of its class. By 2025, over 19,000 A320neo jets have been ordered, with more than 7,000 units still awaiting delivery. Airbus has strategically expanded assembly lines across the US, China, and Europe to meet surging demand and ensure regional adaptability. This global expansion has direct implications for the American workforce. Airbus's US production facilities, such as the one in Mobile, Alabama, are projected to increase hiring, offering opportunities in engineering, manufacturing, and logistics. However, this growth places additional pressure on Boeing to retain domestic contracts and jobs, particularly in states heavily reliant on aerospace employment like Washington and South Carolina. Boeing has not posted a profit since 2018 and continues to battle major production and quality control issues. Its troubled 737 MAX program remains a focal point, especially after a 2024 mid-air incident involving a door panel intensified scrutiny. Combined with earlier crashes and delays in international certifications, especially in China, Boeing's reputation has suffered, hindering global sales. The absence of a direct competitor to the A321neo further weakens Boeing's foothold in the medium-range single-aisle segment. As a result, it continues to lose market share to Airbus. For American communities tied to Boeing's supply chain, this turbulence spells uncertainty. Reduced aircraft orders can translate into job cuts, weakened local economies, and a ripple effect on thousands of subcontractors and suppliers nationwide. The Trump administration's announcement of increased tariffs on imported steel and aluminum, now at 50% effective June 4, 2025, adds another layer of complexity for the aviation sector. Boeing, while primarily assembling aircraft domestically, depends heavily on imported high-grade materials for key structural components. These costlier inputs could raise production expenses and shrink already thin profit margins. For American consumers and businesses, the new tariffs may lead to more expensive airline tickets, fewer flight options, and a tighter travel network. As airlines face higher costs, they could pass them on to passengers, impacting leisure and business travel alike. Moreover, companies reliant on affordable logistics may face delivery delays and inflated transportation expenses, especially for time-sensitive goods. Airbus is set to deliver 820 aircraft in 2025, up from 766 in 2024, despite supply chain and tariff challenges. Boeing faces pressure to develop a new model to compete with the A321neo, though no plans have been announced. Meanwhile, emerging players like China's Comac and Brazil's Embraer are gaining ground, offering cost-effective alternatives that could disrupt markets in Asia and Latin America. This intensifying competition could benefit American travelers through innovation and improved service quality. However, it may also challenge U.S. manufacturers to protect jobs and maintain technological leadership in a rapidly evolving global market. Canada's flight reductions to the U.S. signal escalating trade tensions with global implications. Could this be the tipping point that reshapes America's role in the global economy? In early 2025, Canada responded to new U.S. tariffs, 25% on Canadian steel, aluminum, and other goods, by reducing non-essential flights to the United States. Major airlines like Air Canada and WestJet cut several U.S. routes due to declining demand. The absence of Canadian tourists, a key spending force in destinations like Florida, Nevada, and New York, is already hitting the U.S. economy hard. Tourism-dependent states report losses in the billions, with thousands of hospitality workers now facing job cuts or reduced hours. Hotel bookings have dropped sharply, and local restaurants, attractions, and small retailers are struggling to stay afloat. What was once a winter migration has become a painful economic freeze. Furthermore, flight bookings from Canada to the U.S. for the April to September 2025 period decreased by more than 70% compared to the previous year, leading to significant revenue losses in the travel and tourism sectors. Amid U.S. trade policy uncertainties, countries such as China, Japan, and Germany are redirecting trade and investment toward Canada. Canada's stable trade agreements and transparent policies make it an attractive alternative for global partners. This shift is costing the United States tens of billions in lost export opportunities, especially in agriculture, energy, machinery, and tech. American farmers are seeing fewer foreign buyers, manufacturers are holding excess inventory, and once booming export hubs are slowing down, dragging the fragile post-pandemic recovery into uncertainty. Layoffs are expected to rise in export-driven sectors, adding pressure to already stretched local economies. The OECD has significantly downgraded its U.S. economic growth forecast for 2025 from 2.8% to 1.6%, attributing the slowdown to rising trade tariffs and policy uncertainty. Travel restrictions have led many Canadian snowbirds to sell their U.S. vacation properties, especially in Florida and Arizona. Real estate agencies report a surge in listings from Canadian owners unable to utilize their properties due to travel limitations. Entire communities in southern states that cater to Canadian retirees are seeing cash flow dry up. From local pharmacies and diners to hospitals and home repair services, many businesses are seeing fewer customers and shrinking profits. In Florida alone, some resort towns report over 40% declines in winter season revenues, forcing layoffs and threatening closures. The economic chill isn't just seasonal, it's structural. Notably, in Scottsdale, Arizona, Canadian property listings jumped from around 100 in early 2024 to nearly 700 in the first quarter of 2025, indicating a significant sell-off that could impact local real estate markets. Canada's trade actions highlight a broader trend of countries reevaluating their economic ties with the U.S. Allies like Germany and Japan express concerns over U.S. trade policies, leading to strengthened partnerships elsewhere. As the U.S. becomes more isolated in global trade, consumers may face higher prices and limited product availability. Businesses could lose international market share, affecting profits and employment rates domestically. America is losing billions as foreign tourists disappear, draining a vital piece of the economy. Why are travelers avoiding the United States in growing numbers? In 2025, the U.S. economy is projected to lose approximately $12.5 billion in international visitor spending, with total spending expected to fall to just under $169 billion, from $181 billion in 2024. This decline is attributed to a 9.4% drop in international arrivals, including a 20.2% decrease in visitors from Canada. The downturn has led to empty hotel rooms, canceled flights, and shuttered tour services, signaling a silent collapse with far-reaching consequences. The impact on American workers is significant. Industries once thriving on international guests are now in decline. Job losses are mounting, particularly among hourly wage workers, front desk clerks, cab drivers, tour guides, and cleaning crews. These individuals, heavily reliant on foreign spending, are among the first to feel the economic strain. The World Travel and Tourism Council warns that this downturn could result in the loss of hundreds of thousands of jobs across the U.S. The shift is global. Canada, historically a major source of U.S. visitors, has seen a 20% drop in AIR travel and a 35% decrease in land crossings. This downturn is fueled by opposition to U.S. immigration policies and reports of detentions at borders. China has issued a risk alert for its citizens traveling to the U.S., citing safety concerns amid escalating trade tensions. European countries, and including France and Germany, have also updated their travel advisories, warning citizens about potential risks when visiting the U.S. for local businesses. The disappearance of international tourists is palpable. In Las Vegas, international arrivals have dropped by 7.8%, leading to decreased casino revenues and canceled shows. Hawaii's tourism industry is struggling, with a significant decline in Japanese visitors, who are not projected to return to pre-pandemic levels this decade. In New York City, the forecast for international tourists has been reduced by 17%, equating to 800,000 fewer visitors. Certain regions are nearing a tipping point. Florida's beach resorts are experiencing closures due to the decline in Canadian and European visitors. In Nevada, Las Vegas has seen a 7.8% decrease in visitors, with gaming revenues on the Strip dropping by 4.8%. Hawaii's tourism backbone is under pressure. With Japanese arrivals down by 14.5% compared to the previous year, Airbnb hosts and shuttle services are facing reduced demand. In New York, international tourism is expected to fall by 17%, largely attributed to policy changes and international perceptions. Behind these statistics are American families, from waitstaff in Orlando to museum docents in Manhattan. Individuals are confronting layoffs, reduced hours, and growing uncertainty. The decline in international tourism reverberates through communities, affecting livelihoods and local economies in New York City alone. The tourism sector employs over 400,000 people, and the projected drop in visitors could jeopardize many of these jobs. Coca-Cola is closing multiple plants across the U.S., triggering job losses, price hikes, and local economic shifts. How will these changes reshape the American beverage landscape? Since early 2024, Coca-Cola has initiated closures of several plants across the United States, directly impacting hundreds of jobs. Notably, the company confirmed the permanent shutdown of its bottling facility in American Canyon, California, with the main closure phase beginning on June 30th, 2025, affecting 135 employees. Additionally, layoffs at the Modesto, California facility will result in 101 job losses by January 2025. The impact on local communities is significant. Towns that have long depended on these facilities for employment and economic stability are now facing uncertainty. Workers, particularly those over 50, may find it challenging to secure new employment opportunities, leading to potential financial hardships and increased reliance on social support systems. The closures also affect local businesses that provided services to the plants and their employees, amplifying the economic ripple effect. In March 2025, the U.S. government imposed a 25% tariff on imported aluminum, which was further increased to 50% in June 2025. These tariffs have escalated production costs for beverage companies, including Coca-Cola, which relies on aluminum for its cans. The increased costs are prompting the company to consider shifting more of its packaging from aluminum cans to PET plastic bottles to mitigate expenses. For consumers, these changes may lead to higher prices for canned beverages, while the exact price increase per can is estimated to be about 1 cent. The cumulative effect could make popular drinks less affordable for some households, especially those with fixed incomes or tight budgets. Additionally, the shift from aluminum to plastic packaging raises environmental concerns, as plastic bottles have a higher environmental footprint, potentially conflicting with consumer preferences for sustainable packaging. The closures and operational changes are affecting several states. California, the shutdown of the American Canyon plant and layoffs in Modesto are impacting local employment and economies. Georgia, as the headquarters of Coca-Cola, any corporate restructuring could have ripple effects on the state's economy, particularly in Atlanta. Texas and Ohio, while specific closures have not been confirmed, these states may experience indirect effects due to supply chain adjustments and potential future operational changes. Communities in these states are bracing for economic challenges, including job losses and decreased local spending, which could affect small businesses and public services. The uncertainty surrounding Coca-Cola's operations may also deter future investments in these regions, potentially leading to longer-term economic stagnation. Former President Trump's new steel tariff has ignited a major shift in North American trade and defense relations. Could this be the beginning of a global supply chain realignment? On June 4, 2025, former U.S. President Donald Trump enacted a significant increase in tariffs on imported steel and aluminum, raising them from 25% to 50% via executive order. This move, aimed at bolstering domestic industries, particularly impacts Canada, the U.S.'s largest supplier of these metals. Canada supplies nearly half of U.S. aluminum imports and a substantial portion of steel, making it a critical partner in sectors like defense, automotive, and aerospace. The tariff hike has disrupted the integrated supply chains between the U.S. and Canada. American manufacturers, especially in the Midwest, are facing material shortages and increased costs. Industries dependent on Canadian metals are experiencing production delays, leading to potential job losses and higher consumer prices. Economists warn that the increased costs for raw materials are expected to hurt manufacturers and consumers by raising prices on a wide range of goods, from engines to beverage cans. In response to the U.S. tariffs, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney announced a strategic shift in foreign policy, emphasizing stronger ties with Europe. Canada has committed to joining the European Union's Readiness 2030 defense initiative, aiming to enhance military capabilities and reduce reliance on U.S. defense systems. Additionally, Canada is re-evaluating its trade relationships, seeking to diversify its export markets and lessen economic dependence on the U.S. The U.S. risks losing not just a key trade partner, but also one of its closest defense allies. Canada's alignment with European defense and economic structures could diminish U.S. influence in North America and open opportunities for other global powers to strengthen ties with Canada. This realignment may lead to reduced access to Canadian resources and markets for American businesses, potentially impacting sectors ranging from energy to agriculture. The sudden tariff increase has sent shockwaves through U.S. industries reliant on Canadian metals. Manufacturers in states like Michigan, Ohio, and Missouri are reporting immediate challenges, including halted production lines and financial losses. Despite warnings from industry experts about the potential fallout, the tariffs were implemented without a comprehensive legal framework, leading to confusion and uncertainty. The disruption in supply chains is expected to have long-term economic consequences. Businesses may face prolonged recovery periods, increased operational costs, and the need to find alternative suppliers, which could result in higher prices for consumers and potential job cuts in affected industries. For instance, U.S. manufacturers currently meet only about 20% of domestic transformer demand, creating a critical dependency on imports. Lead times have expanded from weeks to 80 to 120 weeks for some equipment, causing project delays of 1 to 2 years in some cases.